The following podcast is brought to you on behalf of the Saracen Supporters Association and is not an official product of Saracens Limited. Content provided voluntarily by our guests and contributors are of their own opinion, which may change over time and should not be taken as fact, particularly as the podcast hosts are regularly talking drivel anyway. If you've got some drivel of your own you'd like to share, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at fezcast_SSA. You can search Facebook for the Fezcast, or you can email fezcast.ssa@outlook.com.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, hello everybody and welcome to another edition of the Fezcast. We think it's number 30. We are losing count as we often do, but me and Matt are in the hot seat today. Number 30, is it, Matt?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is, yeah. It seems a little while since we've done one together, actually. So
It is,
good to see
absolutely.
you.
Yeah, how are you keeping, mate? All right?
Yeah, ticking along, mate. Busy as ever. We've got plenty to get through, haven't we? And I think we're quite grateful at the moment for all the people that we have on the show to help us out when we're not here, aren't we?
Absolutely. But yeah, no, we have got a big show tonight. We'll have a quick word about Saracens women. We'll do a Six Nations review. We'll have a look forward to the showdown. But the main bones of it is that we got an interview that me and John have done with Saracen Supporters Association sponsored player, new boy at the club this year, Hugh Tizard.
Yeah, fantastic that really. I mean, Hugh's one of those, I think he's pretty much played every minute of the season so far, and he's sort of gone about his business without any real fuss. He's not had a bad game whatsoever, and just one of those players you like to see just doing the unspoken stuff a little bit in a game. He's a fantastic asset to the club, and given the issues we've had in the second row this season, I'm pretty glad we've got him because he's pretty much the only one that stayed fit so far. Absolutely,
yeah. We talk about that in the interview, but before we move on, we do have to impart some sad news, unfortunately, about Oscar, young supporter of the club who sadly passed away recently. So we'll dedicate this show to Oscar's memory, but also obviously at the Showdown free on the weekends, the club are going to pay tribute to Oscar, which is a wonderful thing for them to do, to remember a young supporter's life, and that's absolutely brilliant of the club to do that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's it's hard to say really. It's a pretty sad story, to be honest. So we're doing the right thing. The club paying tribute to someone who's a massive fan of Saracen. So yeah, definitely good.
Excellent. Well, not excellent, obviously not, but excellent from the club to do what they've done. And as I say, we'll dedicate this show to the memory of Oscar. Moving on, though, we need to have a quick chat about Saracens women. I mean, it's kind of like we'll just repeat what we said last week and the week before. A big win on the road, this time at Wasps.
Yeah, the machine rolls on, and it's good to get such a big win with quite a few players missing. Obviously, players away with England. It's probably a slightly stronger cup side than we put out at the start of the season because we did have some of our other international players in and some injury returns. But yeah, it's still a team of. There were some players who were perhaps getting some minutes that they've been waiting a long time for. To go down to Wasps and to put 70 on them in the cup is brilliant, and a cup semi-final coming up as well, which is great.
Absolutely, and after our conversation with Donna Rose last week as well, I think her choice of Georgia Evans, although we did rib her a little bit about it, given that Georgia's got player of the month she got. I mean, it does kind of prove Donna right, shall we say?
Yeah, she's pretty chuffed with that, and she went. And yeah, fair play. Georgia's been pretty consistent all season, so yeah, that's great.
Excellent stuff. Well, perhaps the next thing we'll do before we go into the Hugh Tizard interview is have a quick chat about the end of the Six Nations. And first things first, to say, John Mannings has got a bragging rights over the rest of us on the prediction game that we run, because he actually, he was joined second with Darren, but Darren Stevens, but he did come third on the count back on tie break on the points scored. But yeah, well done, John, for being the best predictor. Although I have to say, he's your lad Charlie, we should have mentioned last week, who had a bit of a bad injury playing rugby himself, but Charlie would have been a bit further up. had he actually predicted 92 tries instead of 91 tries. And he was the only person who went that high. And yeah, he almost got that right. That would have been another 10 points. So he would have been up there as well. But yeah.
Fair play to him. I mean, we won't mention your results, Jez. That wasn't good at all, was it? But yeah, it's a shame for me, really, that I went with my heart choosing Owen Farrell as the top point scorer. And I was obviously very, very wrong with that. When I had all along Thomas Ramos in the box. And I changed it at the last minute. So.
Well, I mean, at least you didn't go for Melvin Jaminet, which a lot of people, including my wife, did, thinking that he might be starting and then to see that Ramos come in. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about players in the tournament. Thomas Ramos, I mean, he scored almost double the amount of points as anybody else. In a tournament where Freddie Stewart had a pretty good Six Nations. And we'll talk about the red card in a minute. And Hugo Keenan and Capuzzo from Italy all had pretty good Six Nations. I think Thomas Ramos, he was the best fullback amongst some very good competition.
Yeah, it's quite strange, actually, because I sort of talking about it in another way, there was no standout 10 at all in the tournament for me, and it's all come from fullback. I think some of the best players. So yeah, Ramos was fantastic. I mean, he had a really good autumn, which is why I'd had him in the kickers box and then went against it, which is stupid. And and yeah, he's absolutely on fire. And to be fair, I think a lot of what he does is off the back of Dupont. I think as a unit, 9, 10. 11, 14, 15, 12, 13, whatever way in France, those backs are all in tune with each other, and it's fantastic. I think a lot of that comes from Dante in the midfield as well.
Yes.
Yeah, they should be red-hot favourites, I think, for a home World Cup. But, Six Nations World Cup, two very different things. And to be fair, Italy ran them close. Another day, other teams might have beaten them, but that it was a fantastic tournament. I think if we take our disappointment about England away, I think it was actually a very, very good Six Nations all round.
Well, it's an interesting thing you say there, because we will mention England now, because one England player got into my team of the tournament, basically on the premise that out of the 400 minutes available, Jamie George at hooker played 392 minutes. I mean, that is freakishly outstanding for a hooker. And yeah, I mean, Sheehan had some amazing performances. Marchand did what Marchand does. Nicotera for Italy was very, very good. But to only not play 8 minutes, I mean, okay, it's because there was no backup for him. I think if Luke Cowan-Dickie had been fit, then that would have been severely restricted, the amount of time Jamie would have been on the field. But to do that in a tournament and keep a pretty good standard, you can't argue with that, can you?
No, you can't. I mean, I'm a little bit concerned in a way that he played that many minutes, because one of the criticisms we had of Eddie Jones quite a lot was that he didn't blood his sort of backup players in important matches. Meaning there was no sort of big game experience when it came to big tournaments. So, if we're going into a World Cup with Jamie George as your number one hooker, is Luke Cowan-Dickie going to be there? And if not, is Jamie George going to have to play an entire World Cup? Someone should have come off the bench at some point. But yeah, Jamie himself was, I don't think he was a standout player in any of the games particularly, but he was solid. And like you say, for a hooker to play pretty much 80 minutes every single game is a real feat. And I don't know, he's probably going to end up playing 50 or 60 for Saracens at the weekend, which I'd say he probably needs to put his feet up. But there you go.
Well, it's interesting. We'll talk about that in the last part when we preview the Showdown, because I've got a feeling about that one. But we'll mention the obvious thing, and the Harlequins. Our colleagues over at the Harlequins pods and everything are really getting their knickers in a twist, because everybody's pointing out. I mean, there was an Irish fan who turned around and said, as an Irish fan, this was on Twitter, he said, Marcus Smith played, Ireland would have won that game on Saturday by 40 points. Owen Farrell came in and showed exactly what Owen Farrell gives to England. And at the moment, Owen Farrell is that right man, backed up by George Ford, because George Ford does similar things. And backed up, again, this is where we have a problem here. I think you should be looking at Finn Smith as your third standoff. because the style of rugby that's going to, very much like 2007, when England's backed up the World Cup by getting to the final under Brian Ashton, and nobody knew how they did it. And basically, it was because they were just belligerent and boring and whatever. I mean, but it worked, and that's where Borthwick is now with his team. Against Italy and Wales, we went back to basics. We played a very basic game plan. It was very much on percentages. It was very much on accuracy, and it worked. We got wins. Against France, we suddenly decided we were going to take them on and try and throw the ball around, and never got the ball. And, then against Ireland, we come out. Yeah, okay, the pack stood up a lot more, and they had to after the France game. But still, you've got Ireland running at you, and then to go down to 14 men and spend 40 minutes, and 10 minutes of those down to 13 men, I think England put in a performance that showed, one, progression from where they were last year, two, progression from the week before against France, and three, just showed that, look, there is a game plan. This is what it is. Yeah, okay, it's not going to excite people, but it works. And if that's what gets us through the next World Cup and then gives Borthwick the chance to build for whatever the next one after 2027, then, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, I mean, in the context of everything that was going on, the game against Ireland was England's best performance of the Six Nations, and it was probably the best England performance for a good year. Well, actually, no, New Zealand. But yeah, I think there's a lot of players that we've seen over the last year that the difference between club rugby in England and top-level international rugby is widening. And some players are able to adapt their game to suit one or the other, and some players haven't. And there are several players who will tear up club rugby time and again, but will not be able to make that step up if that is the case, if that's what's going on. And I think at the moment, Marcus Smith is one of them. Alex Dombrandt is another one. Sam Simmons was another at number 8 that just hasn't been able to make that step, whether it's physicality, whether it's just the style of play, I don't really know. But there's definitely a difference between one and two. And you do see that in rugby where there are some players who actually, they don't seem to be in particularly good form at club level, but actually when you stick them in an international shirt, they're able to play the style of game that works. So, yeah, I still think Marcus Smith, while we're talking about him, has a future in international rugby, but I think there's a side of his game that he needs to develop. He can't just be maverick chucking it around everywhere. I mean, we talk about Finn Russell, and I know you're not a big fan of Finn Russell necessarily, but for all the talk about him being a skillful maverick player, he is still good at some of the gritty side of rugby, and Marcus Smith doesn't have that in his game yet.
Well, Finn Russell is a player that was perhaps 5-6 years ago very much the same as Marcus Smith is now.
Yeah.
But has developed that side of his game. And Finn Russell does drift out of games every now and then, or just doesn't turn up for games. But that is becoming less and less and less and less as he's matured. Marcus Smith's got to learn to do that as well. Otherwise, he's going to be another Danny Cipriani.
Yeah.
Who never, ever progressed that in that same way. So, but the important thing is we need to have a quick word about Freddie Stewart and his red card. And I'm going to say, on the face of it, yes, if you take the letter of the law 100%, Jaco Piper didn't have an awful lot of places to go. But then you have a look at the trigger words in World Rugby's law applications for match officials. And when it comes into contacts, you can play on when there is no fault. If there is a sudden and significant drop in height by the ball carrier, player had no time to readjust, passive action, involuntary collision, no leading arm and close to the body. I think all 5 of those in Freddie Stewart's case were completely there. Now, I don't know why Well, I don't know why Jaco Piper gets games, to be perfectly honest with you. I suppose it's just the fact that you've got to have somebody refereeing it. But and when the two best referees are English, they can't referee England. It's very difficult. The biggest problem I had is it was twofold, really. Number one, there was no consistency. You saw Johnny Sexton put a shoulder in on Ben Curry. You saw Bundy Aki put in a shoulder on Lewis Ludlam. You saw James Ryan put in a shoulder on Lewis Ludlam. You saw Mac Hansen with his arm round Anthony Watson's neck that led to a try. I mean, Bundy Aki's got more seatbelts than a 53-seater coach. And they never even looked at it. Never even looked at those instances. And if Freddie Stewart's was a red card, all four of those should have had something happen to them. And in Sexton, Ryan and Bundy Aki's cases, there were cases that they were more serious than Freddie Stewart's. That really does annoy me. But also it annoys me that, one, the Irish seem to have a pretty good record of going down, oh, my head's hurt. And like Hugo Keenan goes off, and they wanted to bring him on because they said he passed an HIA. Then I think someone probably turned around and said, I think it's political that he doesn't pass his HIA. And then he stays off. I mean, it was a bit farcical.
Yeah, it's. I don't think it's a good look all round at all. It's the Stewart incident is one. It does make me look, because you see a lot of opinions, very strong opinions, one way or another. Either it was a definite red card or it was play on, no nothing, and you would see exactly the same kind of argument and discussion if nothing had been given. So it is a tough one. And the issue with the World Rugby framework is that you can sort of cherry pick words out of it. There were parts of the red card framework that 100% applied to that tackle. There were parts of the yellow card framework that applied to it, and there were parts of the no fault framework in it. And you pretty much pick the words you want to make a decision. It's there to guide a referee. It's not there to be an absolute black and white, because at the end of the day, every incident is different. My issue with what they're trying to do, we talk about consistency all the time, and actually it's become a bit of a bugbear of mine because it's impossible. To have consistency, complete consistency in rugby, the law book has got to be 1 million pages long, because you've got to have a scenario for every possible, I mean, it's going to be infinite pages long, because you've got to have every single possible thing that could happen needs to have some kind of protocol and framework if you're going to get total consistency. So it's absolutely not going to happen. You've either got to have consistent refereeing decisions and this enormous book of laws, or you've got to have something that can be interpreted like the framework sort of is, but it's kind of a halfway house and doesn't work. What most people would do if that framework wasn't there is they'd look at that incident and go, there's been contact with his head, and in the context of what's going on, yeah, we want to really stamp out head contact, which is not the right phrase at all. You don't want to stamp on someone's head. But you've got to look at the context of what was happening. You've got two players going for a loose ball. It's not one player running with the ball and the other one lining him up and belting him in the head. Two players have gone for a loose ball. One's getting there quicker than another, and the other one has taken every possible measure he possibly can not to hit him at full tilt.
Well, I think what happened there was Freddie Stewart actually played to the whistle and Hugo Keenan didn't.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's happened. And yeah, you know, if it hadn't been a knock on, it hadn't been the collision it was, there's no card whatsoever. The trouble I've got with people saying he's tried to get out of the way, it's an accident, is if that was a high ball and Keenan had jumped up to catch it and Stewart has got there late and done everything he can to get out of the way and taken him out at the ankles and Keenan's fallen on his head, 100% red card. We're not talking about it like we are now. Because it's happened on the ground, it seems to be a little bit different, and I'm not really sure I get that. I still don't think it was a red card, but I don't think it's as black and white as people are making out. And I think it's probably, it's one of those where you go, you could give a red, you could give nothing. Therefore, I don't think anyone would have complained if it was a yellow.
No, and I think the biggest problem for me is the fact that the other incidents that I highlighted that were perpetrated by Irish players weren't looked at, and that's the
100%. Another issue there entirely, and especially the one that's in the middle of the ruck, and I think it's Ludlam who's just got his head poking out of it, and he gets absolutely thumped, lined up, He's looked him straight in the eyes and shouldered him in the face. Not
and if
looked at
Lewis
at all.
Ludlam had done what Johnny Sexton would have done and held his head and gone down and made a meal of it,
Yeah.
then I think Ryan would have been red carded and off the field.
And that's exactly what we don't want in rugby. So, yeah, I'm starting to come round to the rule that they introduced in the Rugby Championship of give a yellow card and then the TMO has got 10 minutes to analyse it fully and upgrade it to a red. I'm starting to come around to that because you've got a bit of a fail-safe for the occasions when a game is not decided by a red card, but a red card has a massive, massive effect on a game. So I want them to have as long as they possibly need to make sure that they're making the right decision with that red card. So I'm starting to come around to that rule.
Yeah, sounds very sensible. Just before we move on, quick mention, Nick Tompkins come back, played for Wales, played very well. Why Wales didn't pick him for the whole tournament, do not know. Glad they didn't, because he's got to run out ready for the weekend.
How many caps has he got, Nick Tompkins?
Sorry?
How many caps has Nick Tompkins got? That's the question, because they're potentially bringing in this new rule where you can stay elsewhere if you've got 25. And if he's got about 20, there's a little game being played there.
Well, quite possibly. Let's have a quick look. While we're here, rugby union player Nick Tompkins, Wikipedia, here we go. Bearing in mind, Wikipedia might not be the one. National teams, he's played 27 times for Wales.
All right. We'll end that one.
He's in there. Fair dues. Marco Riccioni, other one as well. I thought he was harshly treated on the weekend. And in fact, I will say this, Italy have been on the end of some pretty rubbish refereeing decisions the whole way through this tournament.
Absolutely. And going back to talking about number 10s, I actually think the Italy 10 has perhaps been the most consistent across the tournament under the radar. Brex, I think it is. But
Tommaso Allen played the first 3 games at 10 and Garbisi last 2, but Tommaso Allen then went to fullback. And I think he had a good one. But
it seems a bit of a... it seems a bit unfair that they've got the wooden spoon.
Absolutely.
They've not been the worst team in the tournament, but they've lost a couple of games that they probably deserve to win.
Well, the one thing I did say last time out with Barry was I think that the problem was they've never been favourites in the Six Nations for a game, and against Wales they were, and they didn't cope with it at all well, unfortunately for them.
Oh, yeah. No, that is what it is. But, they're at least... whereas they've been the whipping boys for a long time, even if they do lose every game, they're at least good value for it at the moment.
Absolutely. Right, let's break there, and we'll hear from myself and John with Hugh Tizard, and then we'll come back and do a brief bit on the Showdown.
Hi, Alex Osterberry here, Director of Rugby for Saracens Women. You're listening to the Saracens Fezcast.
This is the Fezcast.
You are listening to the Fezcast, which is proudly sponsored by the Saracen Supporters Association, and I'm Alison Davis, one of the SSA committee. For a £10 annual subscription, the SSA provides our members with monthly newsletters, virtual and in-person player events, away match ticket allocations, and we organise pre-match gatherings at away matches. We sponsor men's and women's players, and we support the Saracens Foundation Track Club on behalf of our members. On top of all that, every year we have a seasonal SSA badge, which is exclusive to members. Where else can you get that much value for a tenner? Join now at membermojo.co.uk/SSA, or come and see us on match day in the Oasis at the Stonex.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, welcome to the big interview for the Fezcast. And joining me and John is Saracens Supporters Association sponsored player, a man who's played an awful lot of rugby this year for Saracens through necessity, I think, but also, new to the club as well. Welcome to the Fezcast, Hugh Tizard. How you doing, Hugh?
Yeah, very well, thank you, guys. How are you?
Oh, all good, mate. All good. We're recovering from the Six Nations and everything. John's got bragging rights because all of us in the Fezcast, we have a little prediction game going, and he won that, and there was a top man in that. So, but how's you doing? And are all the lads back from England and Wales and wherever and back on the training pad?
Yes, back this morning. It's great to have them back. A lot of experience brought back, and it was also nice to all be together again. Had a good training session this afternoon, and all ready to rip into Saturday.
Well, excellent. Well, we won't ask you about selection or anything like that because obviously, but me and Matt in our part 3, because we've already recorded part 3 of this, we've discussed this and what we think might happen. But that's it. But Hugh, first question I'll ask and say, welcome to the Fezcast. And obviously, it's our first opportunity to welcome you to Saracens. How's your first season gone so far, do you think?
Yeah, I've absolutely loved it. It was a big change coming over from the dark side, as we call them now. I really enjoyed that. Came over in the summer, moved up to St Albans, and then got stuck straight into it. And it's been a really good season. We had great results, but also really enjoyed it and made lots of new mates up here.
Well, I suppose the question to ask you is, what was it that made you want to make that jump across to the dark side, as you so lovely put it? Obviously, you've been at Quins for a while. Come through their academy, had you, or you've been there, as a young guy, and then the opportunity comes. How easy a decision was it, or was it an easy decision?
Yeah, I've been in the academy since I was 16, and then had 4 years full time. I think what really, it was a change of environment that I was after, and then also being able to work with the coaches that we've got here, and also learning from Marrow and all the England boys here was a massive draw.
Oh, excellent. John, you've been impressed with Hugh's performances this year, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah. Seamlessly slotted into the team, created. You've given our fans, especially our young ones, a new young hero to look up to after the Tim Swinson departed at the end of last season. And to be fair to Tim, he did leave a big hole in our team, Hugh, and you filled it magnificently. Really, I think we've all been impressed with how you've settled in, how you've played, and you've been a really, really good addition to the Saracen squad. And hopefully you'll be there many years to come, and you'll have a big old trophy cabinet full of medals before you know it.
Yeah, again, that was another massive thing, coming up here and competing in the Europe competition and the Prem. I want to win as much as I can, so let's hope that trophy cabinet gets a bit fuller this summer.
Well, yeah, the other thing as well, moving on from what John said there, you've played, and I mentioned it in the introduction, you've played just about, every minute possible, haven't you, in the Premiership, through necessity almost. Mara goes off to England duty, and we've had a few injuries. Callum Hunter-Hill's been out for a little while and everything. Been an awful lot of pressure upon yourself coming in as a new guy. Theo McFarland out as well long term. How good has that been that you've got this big run and you really sort of like cemented yourself in the team?
Yeah, I think started in my last year at Quins. I ended up playing 35 games, and I just found as the season went on, my performances got better with the consistency of minutes. So to have that opportunity here, despite being a new player, has been massive, and I think it's helped me gel with the side as much as I can. And like you say, hopefully that continues in the run-in at the end of this season. Well,
absolutely, and of course you've had international recognition in being brought into some of the training squads, certainly in the autumn under the previous coach's tenure. How important was that for you? And looking forward to the future, there's been a few queries around second row almost for England. You're obviously going to be in the spotlight playing for Saracens. How important is it for you to get that, that next step up?
Yeah, I really enjoyed my few weeks that I had in the autumn away with England. It was a big step up, and it was a really tough environment coming in as a new boy. But hopefully, it's put me in good stead when I get back here, and as I play more and more rugby. But this season, I always had it in my head that it was to establish myself in the Saracens team. and then as the years go on and hopefully improve and keep getting better, that it's a massive ambition of mine to play for England. And it's the second rows, I think, are really strong at the moment with Mara in there, but I'd like to think in a few years I'll be able to push them a bit harder.
Oh, absolutely. And I think we've all, as John said, we've all been really impressed with what you've achieved so far, and think that you've definitely got the ability to go on and do that. But I suppose to finish up really and to talk about going forward, I'm a West Ham fan in the football. John is a Spurs fan, so I'll ask John to ask a question about all the Spurs side of things and running out on Saturday. Go on, over to you, John.
Well, I believe you're a Liverpool fan, Hugh. Is that right?
Yeah, big Liverpool fan.
Right. Okay. So as long as you say that the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium is the second most favourite of your football stadiums, then we'll be all right. So last year, obviously, you wasn't there when we played Bristol. This year, you will be. How has preparation been any different? Are you looking forward to a change of home match routine, if you like, and what are your thoughts about running out on the hallowed turf on Saturday?
Yeah, I think we try and keep the preparation consistent game on game. But yeah, I'm massively excited to play there. I think when it was first built, I was keen to go up and see it. It looks like it's the structurally, I'm not sure about atmosphere, but structurally, it's definitely the best stadium in England. And you don't often play at stadiums like that with hopefully north of 50,000 people. So it's going to be a great occasion, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I suppose the other question is the opposition is your old team, and one, I suppose, are you being lent on by the coaching staff to give an insight into what goes on at Quins or whatever? Are there any little sort of like insider things that you can bring to the game? But secondly, how is it going and playing against your old team? I mean, you've already played Quins at the Stoop for Saracens, but is this one game that you're looking at that you really want to lay down a marker and say, personally, but also as a team, it's the one you really, really want to win?
Yeah, I think in terms of any sort of tactics or any secrets, I think we'd be naive to think that they wouldn't change it this week. I'd imagine they know that, or Quins will be aware that I'll be trying to throw in some things, but I'm sure they'll change it. But in terms of the excitement of playing against a lot of good mates and also a team that I was at for years, I'm buzzing for it. The first game of the season at their place, I was still bedding in. I hadn't played a game yet for Sarries. It was all very new. Whereas now, I think with near enough 20 games under my belt, I'll be looking to as you say, lay down a marker and hopefully get one up on a few mates and a bit of bragging rights as well.
I mean, without wishing, for to see anything nefarious going on or anything like that in the game. I mean, obviously, if Danny Kerr ended up at the bottom of a ruck or something, I don't think there'd be too many Saracens fans who'd be worried if you made sure he stayed down there a little bit longer, shall we say?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. He's a good lad, Danny, but if he is on the floor, you've got to take your opportunities.
Well, he's a bit of a pantomime villain to us Saracens fans, isn't he, really, I suppose? But, I mean, a bit like Austin Ely was many years ago. But, yeah, no, we're looking forward to it. John, are you going to the game or are you working? You at the Spurs Stadium?
Yes, mate. Yeah, I'll be there Saturday. Me and Charlie will be there. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm having to watch it from the sofa at this year. It's not a game I can get to, unfortunately, but I mean, I'll be seeing a different viewpoint of it. What we will say, Hugh, is, well, first of all, thank you for your time with us. It's been great. I know you're pressed for time today, so we're going to let you go and everything. But, just to say thank you for joining us. Also, well done on your season so far. I think when we do our end of season awards, you'll be well up in the mentioning for those because your performances have been exceptional, and you've done a great job for Saracens, and you slotted in absolutely fantastically.
Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much, Hugh, and good luck for Saturday.
Yeah, cheers. See you then.
This is the Fezcast.
Hi, I'm Alex Lewington, and I'm a Looseheads ambassador.
I'm Sydney Gregson, and I'm a Looseheads ambassador.
Our aim is to tackle the stigma of mental health in rugby and society in general.
The Looseheads mission is to place a mental health lead at every rugby club. Get in touch now to find out more.
You can find us at Looseheads on all social media channels or at looseheads.co.uk.
Take care and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Enjoy the rest of the pod.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Okay, well, we're back there, and that's a fabulous chat with Hugh Tizard, a man who's a former Quin and now a Saracen, so he gave us a good insight into the mindset going forward. But yeah, we've got the showdown at the Spurs Stadium on Saturday, a huge game. I think about 45,000 to 50,000 tickets sold. I unfortunately can't make it along, but you going, Matt?
I am, yeah. I'm there with, I think, between myself and my dad, and we actually have enough. Well, we have some friends. We're actually bringing about 15 people along, so we're doing quite well. Yeah, it'll be a long day, put it that way.
Well, absolutely, and a long bar. But yeah, the showdown, big one, really. I mean, it's Saracens versus Quins. There's an awful lot of subplots going on here, and it does really depend on what sort of team Saracens pick. And I mean, we're recording this Monday night to go out Wednesday, so we don't know what the team is. Two thoughts, is it? Do the players come back from internationals and get a week off? Or do they go into the game, bearing in mind Europe's coming up the following week? Personally, seeing mainly on the premise that we played absolutely no club rugby whatsoever for 2 weeks, I'd want these guys to come in and say, right, you've got this game this week, then you've got the European game, and then it's a case of then have your break, because these guys are hot. And, I think certain players, Maro Itoje, for instance, I think Max Malins, okay, he didn't play last week, but he's got something to prove again. Owen Farrell against Marcus Smith, this could be the one where he actually, nails that down and everybody looks at it and says, yeah, okay, Owen's the man. I want those boys to play because they're the ones who are match ready.
Yeah, I mean, what you want to avoid is kind of what happened in the same game against Bristol last year, where for the first half we really seemed a bit undercooked. It was, they did seem a little bit tired after the Six Nations. But you're right, I think there's enough players that haven't played quite as much rugby as they might have expected over the last few weeks, and they'll be ready to go. And equally, the international players perhaps feeling a bit better after that performance against Ireland. So I reckon there's a couple of games to come over the next few weeks where we're at full tilt, and then people will start getting a rest. At the end of the day, it's a big showpiece event. So if any players are due for rests under the England protocols that they've got, there'll be dispensations and waivers and things for that, like there normally is. And then they'll have to put their feet up in April at some point. But I'd expect us to be as full tilt as we possibly can be, because at the end of the day, it's the biggest club game of the season for us, really.
Well, absolutely. I mean, there's some key head-to-heads. The obvious one is Owen Farrell versus Marcus Smith, given all the debates that have been going on over the last few weeks. But the one that I'm really interested in seeing is going to be the battle in my old position. There you go. I managed to get the chat in there, but. Billy Vunipola versus Alex Dombrandt. And, you said in the first part, Dombrandt hasn't had the best Six Nations. Billy has really stepped up and he's showing some skills and some qualities where you're saying, perhaps he should be the England number 8. And I think this is the game where he goes out and perhaps proves it.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, he's having a very strange season, Billy Vunipola, for a lot of different reasons. He's one that, he's been playing very well for us, and he does. Again, he's another player that used to be a walking highlights reel, and he's actually doing more unheralded work than perhaps he used to. But weirdly, sort of for all, as well as he's playing, he's actually one of those players that if he does leave in the summer, as is quite heavily rumoured, I'd go, yeah, fair enough. He's probably not the player he was, and we'll take it. But
you say that, but if you look at the metres gained this year in the Premiership Rugby, there's a Ruan Ackerman has got the most metres, and Billy Vunipola is like 2 metres behind him. They made over 220 metres or something. You know, they're two big ball carriers.
Exactly, yeah. And the thing is, you sort of look at that, and he used to do that. It'll be 30 metres at a time, some of them. But now it's a consistent, we give the ball to Billy Vunipola and he makes 5. He has people hanging off of him, and by the time they've tackled him, he's made 5 metres. So it's not as obvious to your rugby layman, if you want to put it that way, as it used to be with the style of play Billy had. He used to break those tackles and power through 10, 20 metres, whereas now he makes 5 and he's either down to the ground he's either offloading quickly without a ruck, or he's presenting the ball before he's even hit the floor, and Ivan Van Zyl was managing to hurl it out straight away. So he's a very quick cog in the machine, put it that way, rather than your highlight reel player a la Theo McFarland. But yeah, he's still a fantastic player. But yeah, if just for whatever reason, he's more replaceable than he used to be, but I think we still miss him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right there. But definitely looking forward to the game. And next week we'll have a review of that. Plus, I'm not going to tell you who our guest is next week, but we've got a big name. I'm going to be interviewing them on Thursday. Just waiting for them to double confirm what time and everything. But yeah, we'll get Matt and myself. We'll put some stuff out, some hints, shall we say, and some cluesies to who is coming up next week on next week's show. As I say, it's not 100% confirmed yet, but we're just waiting for that person, due to different time zones and everything like that, to confirm that they're definitely coming on. But
let's hope you've not overshot that a little bit.
Yeah, let's hope not. I mean, I've got a message from them tonight, so we're just waiting for them to double confirm. But yeah, look, thank you everybody for listening in. As I say, we'll be back next Wednesday, which I think is the 29th of March, after the showdown, and we'll look forward to seeing you then.
Cheers, everyone.
Ta-ra.
This is the Fezcast.